refuge and bodhicitta. In the Buddha's Dharma and Sangha, until enlightened I seek refuge, through merit from giving and the rest, to aid all may I become Buddha. In the Buddha's Dharma and Sangha, until enlightened I seek refuge, through merit from giving and the rest, to aid all may I become Buddha. In the Buddha's Dharma and Sangha, until enlightened I seek refuge, through merit from giving and the rest, to aid all may I become Buddha. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be parted from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from bias, attachment, and hatred. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer of the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer of the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer of the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, O supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise, then, I prostrate. With pure bodies, forms supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Dust free like you, the 3 worlds are not, incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior, having great compassion, the founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to the Dharma that pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all 3 ever devout homage, to all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms, atoms, in all aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, mirage, the flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, seek and distinct things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the foe of thoughts, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. From Tushita's hundreds of gods, protectors high, to tip of this fresh, pure white heave, curved like cloud, O Losondapa, Dharma's omniscient king, pray come to this place with your disciples. In space ahead, lion throne, lotus and moon, venerable guru, smile brightly with delight. Pray stay hundreds of eons dawns to spread doctrine as supreme merit. Feel for my mind of faith. Your wisdom mind sees full range of knowables. Your eloquent speech adorns fortunate ears. Your beauteous body, fame, glory, outstanding. Homage to you, worthwhile to think of, hear and see. Pleasant offerings of water, various flowers, fragrant incense like perfume, and so on. Oceans of offerings set out and envisioned, offered up to you, supreme field of merit, non-virtue limited with body, speech, and mind, which I have heaped up since beginningless time, especially what has contradicted three vows. Each I confess from my heart with strong regret. In time of strife you strove to learn and practice, shunned a mundane concerns, made life essence-full. O protector from depths of our heart, we rejoice in your powerful great deeds. Venerable gurus from love and wisdom, clouds densely math in your Dharma Kaya sky, pray serene of vast profound Dharma on fields of disciples just as needed. May whatever virtue that I've here gathered bring benefit to all beings and doctrine, and may it make venerable Lotong Drapa's essential teachings specially shine forever. Mikmet sewe ter chen chen rezig, dreame kempe wampo jom pelyon, du humalu jon se son wedak, gan chen kepe sungen son kapa, lo son drape jabla so adem. O glorious and precious root guru, pray take seat of lotus on my crown, caring for me with your great kindness. Bestow attainments of body, speech, and mind. O glorious and precious root guru, pray take seat of lotus at my heart, caring for me with your great kindness. Bestow attainments common and supreme. O glorious and precious root guru, pray take seat of lotus at my heart, caring for me with your great kindness, until supreme awakening remain steadfast. Homage to the exalted three jewels. Thus have you heard at one time, the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagriha on Vulture Mountain, together with a great assembly of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the concentration of the countless aspects of phenomena called profound illumination. At that very time, the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, was looking perfectly at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, perfectly looking at the emptiness of inherent existence of the five aggregates also. Then through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said to the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, how should a child in the lineage trained who wishes to engage in the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, replied to the Venerable Shariputra as follows. Shariputra, whichever son or daughter of the lineage wishes to engage in the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look perfectly like this, subsequently looking perfectly and correctly at the emptiness of inherent existence of the five aggregates also. Form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is not other than form is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are empty, without characteristics, that is, they are not produced and do not cease. They have no defilement and no separation from defilement. They have no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visible form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no object of touch, and no mental phenomenon. There is no I element, and so forth, up to no mind element, up to no element of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no cessation of ignorance, and so forth, up to no aging and death, and no cessation of aging and death. Likewise, there is no suffering, no origin, no cessation, and no path. No exalted wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide in the perfection of wisdom, and because their minds have no obstructions, they have no fear. Passing utterly beyond error, they attain the final state beyond sorrow. All the Buddhas who reside in the three times by relying upon the perfection of wisdom become manifest and complete Buddhas in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the equal to the unequaled mantra, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, since it is not false, should be known as the truth. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Tayata gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisoha. Shariputra, this is how our bodhisattva, a great being, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration and said to the superior Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva, the great being, well said, O child of the lineage, so it is. The profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced exactly as you've taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra, the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, and the entire assembly, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, demigods, Gandharvas, and others, were filled with admiration and highly praised what had been spoken by the Blessed One. In the holy supreme abode of the Dakinis, possessed of clairvoyance and miraculous power, unwaveringly caring for practitioners as your children, homage to the host of the three places Dakinis. Akasamara Sachada Samara Pe. Tayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhisoha. Through the power of the truth of the exalted three-jewel speech, may all on the side of negativity, such as the four Maras, be stopped. May they become non-existent. May they be pacified. All enemies, obstructors, and hindrances, Shante Kure Soha. The 80,000 types of obstructors pacified, free from adverse, harmful conditions, may all be conducive and perfect auspiciousness, bring happiness and well-being here right now. Saji Pagi Zhongxing Mei Tong Tramri Krabling Ji Ni Te Kempadi Sangye Jingdu Mig Te ching drin ji ta tsam he tu je tsima la ja ye che ki cha pa wa tu so idam guru ramandala tham niya tayami Sangye chodang soke chok nam la janchu badu dagni kyap su chi dagi chen yen gi pe sonam ki dro la penche sangye dro pa sho Sangye chodang soke chok nam la janchu badu dagni kyap su chi dagi chen yen gi pe sonam ki dro la penche sangye dro pa sho Sangye chodang soke chok nam la janchu badu dagni kyap su chi dagi chen yen gi pe sonam ki dro la penche sangye dro pa sho
So think, the purpose of my life is to lead all sentient beings from suffering to enlightenment. In order to do that, first I have to reach enlightenment myself. Reaching enlightenment depends on realizing the seed of enlightenment, the principal cause of enlightenment, bodhicitta, the determination to reach enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. And realizing bodhicitta depends on studying and practicing the teachings on bodhicitta. And therefore I'm going to practice meditation and study the teachings on bodhicitta this morning here. So in that way, generate bodhicitta motivation for this session. Now we do a few minutes meditation on the breath. So focus on the entrance of your nostrils, where your breath goes out, comes in. And think, now I'm going to focus, put all my attention on my breath without allowing myself to become distracted by anything whatsoever. So generate that strong determination, and with that determination, just focus on your breath for a while. visualize all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas surrounding you throughout infinite space. They are there. Visualize they're sending you in the form of radiant white light. All their enlightened energy, compassion, wisdom, power. So as you breathe in this radiant white light. And that white light displaces all the dark, negative energy inside your body and mind. Your ignorance, other delusions, negative karma, suffering, problems, illness. Anything you don't like, you don't want. And breathe that out in the form of thick black smoke. That black smoke comes out through your nostrils and then disappears across the horizon, dissolves into nothingness, no longer exists anywhere. And feel completely free of all negativity. And again, breathe in. The radiant white light fills your body and mind with bliss. Radiant white light. Your body is transformed into a body of light, kind of radiant, radiating light. Translucent. And breathe out. Again, all the negative energy, form of thick black smoke, disappears across the horizon, dissolves in nothingness, no longer exists anywhere. So just keep doing the breathing meditation with that visualization for a couple of minutes. thing's good training to keep still. Every time you move it. No, it's scraping on the back. It's okay. I need the training. Okay, so where are we? Okay, so we're talking about bodhicitta. We have been the last few weeks. This is the fourth one, I think. So up there we have the Lamrim outline. This is the path of the circle lower scope, the path of the lower capable being, that for practitioners whose main aim is just not to be reborn in lower realms in the next life, to receive human rebirth or upper rebirth in one of the God realms. Then this one is the middle scope. What happened to our charts? Sure they are. Okay, we're getting these printed out, hopefully. Okay, what's greater than the great scope? Okay, so this is the intermediate one. This is the aspects, the details of the practices we have to, the teachings we have to study and practice to attain complete liberation from cyclic existence, for ourselves alone, individual liberation. And this one, this is the great scope, which is what we have to practice, study and practice to attain enlightenment. So training your mind in the great scope. So the first is the teaching about bodhicitta, its benefits. So Geshe taught that a month or so ago before he left, I believe. Then the way to develop bodhicitta, which is what we're talking about now. And then the third outline there is, after developing it, how to train in the bodhisattva's deeds. So the way to develop bodhicitta, so the actual stages of training, which is what we're doing now. Then the second section is taking the bodhisattva vows, and which we can do by themselves or as part of an initiation, tantric initiation. And then the activities to train in after developing bodhicitta. So this first outline, the actual stages of training, has two. Training the mind by the means of sevenfold cause and effect instructions. So we've been talking about those for the last couple of weeks, and we'll finish it off now. And then there's training the mind through exchanging self and others. So we'll get into that a little bit today too. So training the mind by means of the sevenfold cause and effect instructions. Equanimity, we did that. In the first, we did meditation, equilibrium meditation, as taught by Lama Zopa Rinpoche. We did that. Then the actual so that's kind of equalizing our mind, seeing sentient beings as equal in having been friend, enemy and stranger, not discriminating sentient beings on that basis, on the basis of attachment and aversion. So the sevenfold cause and effect, there are 6 causes and 1 effect. The first cause, understanding all sentient beings, being our mother, remembering mother's kindness. The third is necessity of repaying the kindness. Then meditating on great love, meditating on great compassion. And the 6th cause, altruism, it's really stronger than that. It's like extraordinary intention or exceptional resolve, something like that. And then those 6 causes lead us to develop bodhicitta. So in doing these, we've been referring to Rinpoche's teachings on how to develop bodhicitta. I don't think we have any more of these books, but it's online, and the link, everyone's been sent the link, I think. So you can print out a PDF if you want to read it in paper. So just to go back to the sixth cause, the final cause, altruism, or extraordinary intention, as it's called here. So we did this briefly last week. The next step is extraordinary intention. This is when you have the feeling that you yourself, so this is what comes naturally after meditating on these previous 5 causes. They lead to this extraordinary intention when you have the feeling that you yourself alone have the responsibility of eliminating all the sufferings of all sentient beings and bringing to them all the happiness they wish for. So that's pretty extraordinary intention, to feel personal responsibility, take personal responsibility for relieving the suffering, all the suffering of all sentient beings. It kind of sounds impossible, really, but it's the same sense of responsibility that a child would feel towards his or her mother, feeling responsibility to make her happy and free her from suffering. So when you feel that way towards all sentient beings and feel that you yourself alone will achieve this goal, then you've generated the extraordinary intention. It's extraordinary because it's more exceptional or supreme than the intention of the hearers or solitary realizers, those who practice the individual vehicle. So, the pink one that we looked at before, that leads to individual liberation. The extraordinary intention is similar to being in a position of saving someone from falling off a cliff, where you feel responsible to save that person. In the same way, when you feel a deep sense of responsibility for eliminating the suffering of all sentient beings and for giving them all the happiness they wish for, that is the extraordinary intention. It can also be called exceptional attitude or universal responsibility. So you can have that thought, and then going on to the 7th, the effect of these 6 causes. The next step is the actual generation of bodhicitta, also called the generation of the mind, Semkhe. This comes by reflecting, do I really have the capacity to accomplish this goal of eliminating all the suffering of sentient beings and bringing them every happiness? So that's kind of a reality check. I feel responsible. I take responsibility for alleviating all the suffering of all sentient beings. Come on. Can I really do that? Actually, at this point, I can't accomplish that even for one sentient being. But if I check who does have the complete capacity to accomplish this goal, it's only the Buddha. Only an enlightened being can actually do that. Only the Buddha has the right qualities because of his power, knowledge, and capacity to accomplish spontaneously the benefit of all sentient beings. At this point, you have to reflect on the qualities of Buddha as a worthy object of refuge, as you did in the Lam Rim meditation of the individual of the small scope. So, the detailed meditation on refuge is in here somewhere. So this is the taking refuge, the holy gateway for entering the teaching. So this is a very actually detailed teaching. You know, there are these 5 sections as the first step, and then several of those have subsections, and there are sub-subsections, and so on and so forth. So we should have studied and practiced that before we get to here, really. You know, so a complete teaching that leads us to enlightenment has to have not only every step, but the steps have to be in the right order. So that's what this Lamrim teaching is. It has all the steps and has them all in the right order. And if we're trying to seriously practice, you know, we have to start at the beginning, go through this, and then go through this, whatever's here, and then come to here. There is a way to silence that. Okay, so developing bodhicitta. So having understood the qualities of the Buddha from our deeper studies on refuge and meditating on that, we understand the qualities of the Buddha, and we understand why it's only a Buddha can relieve the suffering of all sentient beings and lead them to enlightenment. So following this, you generate the thought that you will accomplish the benefit of all sentient beings by achieving the qualities of Buddha yourself. This means that you generate the mind of bodhicitta, thinking, I must achieve the supreme enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. This wish to become a Buddha is not just to abandon whatever has to be abandoned in order to achieve the complete purpose of yourself. Previously, you've generated, see 4 and 5, previously you've generated great love and great compassion in order to benefit all sentient beings. Therefore, it's for this purpose that you now generate the wish to become a Buddha. You must also check, am I actually able to do it? Yes, you are definitely in a position where you can become a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. In fact, there's no better situation than the one you're in now. So that we understand also from our previous studies, even going back before the graduated path of the lower capable being. There are these preliminary teachings, you know, the 4 main outlines: the greatness of the authors, greatness of the Dharma, how to listen and teach, then the sequence in which the disciples are taught, the route of the path, devotion to a spiritual guide, and then having become the proper training you should undertake after you've begun to rely on your spiritual guide. Then the first part of that is, so the second part of that is how to extract the essence. No, let's go back to the first part. The stimulus to take the essence from your optimum or perfect human rebirth. So that's what this is talking about here. That we have this perfect opportunity to become a Buddha or firmly set ourselves on the path. So first, you know, there's identifying a human rebirth, thinking about its benefits and thinking about how difficult it is to acquire. Then how to extract the essence. So having become motivated to extract the essence based on our reliance on the spiritual guide, then it talks about these 3 scopes: training your mind, the small, the medium, and the great. So, you know, the small, medium, and the great. Now I lost my place. First cause. So here, so this brings us all the way here to developing bodhicitta. So I must become a Buddha. This is the perfect opportunity. We have the perfect human rebirth. You know, it has 8 freedoms, 10 richnesses. In fact, there's like an 11th richness, which is not normally mentioned. That's we've met the Vajrayana. We're born in the time of a Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, who taught the Tantra. We have the still living tantric lineage that came from the Buddha himself through the great tantric masters of India and Tibet. So with the Vajrayana, you know, not only can we reach enlightenment, we can reach it much more quickly through, you know, having met a Vajra master and taking initiation and receiving tantric vows and commentaries. Yes, you're definitely in a position where you can become a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. In fact, there's no better situation than the one you're in now. You have a precious human rebirth. You've met perfect teachers and the Mahayana path. This means you're actually in the best situation to achieve Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. So when we think that, when you think that I've received perfect human rebirth, how does that resonate in your mind? You know, anything? So do you feel great joy, or would you feel more joy if you'd won, you know, the scratch thing and you win $1 million? You win $1 million. I'm going to be much more excited with $1 million than thinking I've received perfect human rebirth. But, I mean, there's just no comparison in terms of benefits, you know. So it just shows how far we have to go, I think. Well, me anyway. $22. You have it there? Furthermore, you've met the perfect teachings of the great Lama Tsongkhapa. So we just celebrated his 600th anniversary of Lama Tsongkhapa's parinirvana, passing away. You probably can't see him now. Anyway, he's there. By relying on these incredible teachings, many practitioners of the past, on the basis of having received a precious human rebirth, were able to achieve the supreme realization in that very lifetime. Some individuals, such as the omniscient Gyalwa and Sapa, were able to achieve this realization in an even shorter period of time, 12 years or even 3 years, through practicing Vajrayana. You know, these practitioners had the same basis, precious human body, and other conditions that you have now, that we have now. Therefore, you know, we should feel a sense of confidence in having the basis that enables us to become a Buddha. So, you know, obviously we've established very strong karmic imprints in previous lives to meet these Vajrayana teachings, because out of 1,000 Buddhas of this current so-called fortunate eon, where 1,000 Buddhas will descend and give teachings. So it's a long time, of course. We're in the period of the 4th of the 1,000 Buddhas, Shakyamuni Buddha, who taught Tantra. Next Buddha, Maitreya, the 5th one, when the current teachings that we're enjoying disappear completely. Then there'll be no Dharma and the place will be like really bad. And eventually karma will change and Maitreya Buddha will come, but the sentient beings in Maitreya's time won't have the karma to receive and practice Tantra. And in fact, all the Buddhas, so the first Buddha of the 1,000 taught Tantra, the 4th, Shakyamuni Buddha, taught Tantra, Then none of the others till the last one will teach Tantra. So this is like the last opportunity for a long time. So it's taught. So the contrived form of bodhicitta, the experience of bodhicitta that arises through effort. So for us, we have to make an effort to think, I'm going to receive enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. I mean, we have to generate the thought, and then we have to try and feel something. So because we haven't done enough purification, because our mind's still full of ignorance and delusions, it's very hard for us to feel the meaning of the words in any kind of deep way. Because we haven't purified the obstacles, and we haven't created enough merit, and we haven't studied the teachings or meditated on them effectively enough. So these are all things that we have to do in order for the words to really resonate at a deep level. So our form of bodhicitta we generate at the moment is contrived. It's sort of artificial. It's pretty much just verbal. But without it, I remember after my first meditation course, which was quite a long time ago, I mean, not a long time ago in terms of eons, but before most of you kids were born, 1972. After my first course, I had an interview with Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and who taught the course. And I said to him, well, I understand that I want to reach enlightenment for the sake of sentient beings. But, when I just say those words and think about them, I feel like a complete hypocrite, because I know really in my heart what I really want is for myself to be happy, and I don't really care that much for all sentient beings, So he sort of fell about laughing and said, well, I understand, but it starts with the words. So without, if you don't have the words, it's not going to happen. So it just has to start with the words, and then you go from there. So we have to just keep repeating the words, this contrived bodhicitta, I'm going to receive enlightenment, reach enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. And the very first teaching the Buddha gave, remember the Four Noble Truths? What was the first one? Truth of suffering. So that's what leads us to want to become enlightened. And so the first thing we have to understand in terms of suffering is our own suffering. The depth and breadth of our own suffering that we've experienced in cyclic existence since beginningless time, in the six realms, mainly in the lower realms, mainly in the hell realms. That also doesn't affect our mind when we think about it now, because we may not even believe it, that there's such an experience. And even though we've been there countless times, in all the different, 8 hot hells, 8 cold hells, 4 neighbouring hells, occasional hell. There's all these different kind of hell realms described in the Lam Rim in a lot of detail, many different, in all the Lam Rim teachings, whether it's Lam Rim Chenmo or Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand or Jewel Ornament of Liberation, or all these other Lamrim texts from that derive from Atisha's first one, the Lamp for the Path, in all the different Tibetan traditions. And not just in Tibetan, in the Pali text, in the so-called original teachings of the Buddha. It's all there. So first we have to, in order to have compassion for other sentient beings, we have to understand the suffering we've experienced ourselves since beginningless time, life after life, and sort of feel compassion for ourselves having to undergo this. And that should lead to first renunciation. You know, renunciation of the whole of cyclic existence, understanding that no matter which way you slice it, it's all suffering. Even the happiness we experience is really not true happiness, it's just suffering, because it never lasts. And we create a lot of negative karma, cause of suffering itself, in order to achieve it. And then when we achieve it, we get attached to it, so create more negative karma from attachment. And then it stops, and then we have negative regret. And then we have to do the work all over again to try and achieve it, some kind of happiness again. And that sort of hamster wheel of existence is the big wheel, cyclic existence. Yeah, if we see a hamster running on a wheel, we should think that's me, you know, just in the big wheel of cyclic existence. Trying to get up. So we exhaust ourselves really getting nowhere, because, you know, we've been in cyclic existence since beginningless time. There's not a single experience we haven't had, good or bad, countless times. So if we had proper insight into our situation, you know, we should feel exhausted and disgusted by the whole thing, and really set ourselves firmly on the path to try and get out. But the old habits die really hard. You know. Therefore, you should feel a sense of confidence in having the basis that enables you to become a Buddha. So we've had the teachings, we have the teachers, we have Vajrayana teachers who can give us initiations and create deep imprints, affinity for the tantric path in our mind. So even in, anyway, I won't go there. So the contrived form of bodhicitta, the experience of bodhicitta that arises through effort, is known in Tibetan as the bodhicitta, which is like the outer layer of the sugar cane. So we're all extremely familiar with sugar cane. Well, I'm not. The uncontrived form of bodhicitta is when the thought of wanting to achieve, I don't know why there's this example exactly. The uncontrived form of bodhicitta is when the thought of wanting to achieve supreme enlightenment for the benefit of sentient beings arises spontaneously in your mind as soon as you meet any sentient being, no matter who or she or what it is. Having that uncontrived, effortless experience is a sign that you have achieved the actual realization of bodhicitta. And once you have generated the realization of bodhicitta, you earn the name child of the victorious ones, or child of the Buddhas, or bodhisattva. So this concludes the explanation of how to generate bodhicitta by way of the 7-point cause and effect instruction. So, so this book details that, and also this new book by Lama Zopa Rinpoche also goes into that in, I think, perhaps even more detail on the sevenfold cause and effect meditation, and then also then equalizing and exchanging oneself for others, which is the next part. So, you know, I really do we have this in the store or somewhere? Recommend this book very highly. Sugarcane, sure. Yeah, so the contrived bodhicitta is like the outer husk, and then the essence, the sweet essence, is the actual realization, I guess, something like that. Didn't actually complete the analogy. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, well, we did go into that. Well, anyway, briefly, I'm fairly short here, but it says, affectionate love is the kind of love that a mother feels when looking at her only child. Yeah. When a mother looks at her child, he appears to her in a very beautiful way, and she feels great love for him. Does that resonate? Yeah. You have that experience? There you go. So now if you feel that for all sentient beings, then you're doing better than most of us. Can you do that? Yeah, I mean, you have the example right there. So just extend it to everybody, all sentient beings. Okay, so so the next section then is this one, number 2, training the mind through the interchange or exchange of self and others. So here this is elaborated into 7 headings, teaching the preliminaries. Can you read that? Teaching the preliminaries, teaching yourself 2 types of bodhicitta, converting unfortunate circumstances into path to enlightenment, teaching a practice to be applied to your whole life, criteria of having trained the mind, 18 commitments of mind training practice, and 22 pieces of advice. So, so the preliminaries, I think we know those. 2 types of bodhicitta, ultimate and relative bodhicitta. So training the mind in relative bodhicitta is so the ultimate bodhicitta is really just a realization of emptiness with the motivation of bodhicitta. So that's what that is. So then training the mind in relative bodhicitta is where we have to focus now. So Rinpoche says, the second method of generating bodhicitta is that of exchanging oneself with others. The practice of equalizing and exchanging oneself with others, combined with the practice of tong len, or giving and taking, is known as training the mind, or lojong, mind transformation. If we look at the lineage of these instructions, they began with Buddha Shakyamuni and Manjushri and were handed down from them in an uninterrupted lineage of great masters, including Shantideva. So the great master Atisha received the lineage from Lama Serlingpa. So we know the story of Atisha, how he was told to, he was in Bodh Gaya, I think, circumambulating the stupa, and he asked a question of maybe a Tara who appeared to him there. How do I get bodhicitta? She said, go and study with Serlingpa. He was in like Sumatra, so he had to go across from India across the Bay of Bengal to Sumatra. So it said it was a very dangerous 13-month voyage. I never read how he got back. I don't know if maybe he flew back after achieving bodhicitta with all his disciples. Maybe someone could do some research and see if you can find how Atisha got back from Indonesia. But he got back, because then he went to Tibet. So when Atisha went to Tibet, he taught the 7-point cause and effect instruction publicly, and gave the instruction on exchanging oneself with others only to his main disciple and interpreter, Domtomba, who was the founder, really, of the Kadam tradition. Because he felt that his other disciples were not fit vessels for such instruction. So all these great disciples that Atisha had, he didn't give them this secret instruction. Domtomba himself kept this lineage very secret among his many disciples. He gave it only to his principal disciple, the foremost Kadampa virtuous friend, Geshe Potawa. Geshe Potawa also kept this instruction very, very secret. Although he too had many disciples. So these guys, after Atisha passed away, Domtomba and his main disciples, the Kadampa Geshis, they went to a place called Retting. So I think I mentioned the other day. So Retting is a very special place in Tibet, and it's a place where His Holiness the Dalai Lama said if he were ever to retire to Tibet, he would go to Retting. That's where he would retire. And of course a lot of it's been destroyed and fallen apart just by natural causes and by unnatural causes. But you can still see the stupa. Geshe Potawa stupa you can still see there at Retting. And there's a circumambulation path that all these hundreds of amazing Kadampa Geshis would do. You can go on that path yourself if you ever get to Retting. Geshe Potawa also kept this instruction very, very secret. Although he too had many disciples, he gave these instructions only to the great Langri Tangpa and Geshe Sharawa. So Geshe Langri Tangpa, on the basis of having received and realized these instructions, composed the renowned text, the 8 verses of thought transformation. So we all know that, right? Yeah, we often do it when we do Guru Puja. In fact, we're doing Guru Puja today, isn't it? What time? 12:45. So maybe we can do it there as part of the Lam Rim at the end there. Because these instructions had been put into writing, they became more widespread and many people were able to learn and practice them. Later, the great master Chekawa came to know them, came to know of them. Geshe Chekawa was a scholar learned in all the 5 sciences, but was not satisfied with his knowledge and wished to learn the Dharma. One day he heard 2 lines of the 8 verses of thought transformation, which said, Give to others all gain and fortune, and take on yourself all loss and defeat. So, give the victory to others. So his mind was blown by that concept. Again, doesn't have much effect on mine. But Geshe Chekawa's mind was blown by that, give the victory to others, even the very idea of putting others ahead of yourself. He was intrigued by these lines and wanted to understand how to actually practice giving to others whatever victory and goodness there is, and taking upon oneself all loss and defeat. Thus he went in search of these instructions. He travelled to the region of Pembo in Tibet, where Geshe Langri Tangpa lived. So when you go, one way to go to Reting is from Lhasa. You go east, and the next valley to where Lhasa is the Pembo Valley. And you go up to Pembo Valley, and then to a place called Lundrup, where there's an amazing, very symmetrically kind of pointed mountain. And then you go past there and you go to Reting. So at the beginning of the Pembo Valley on the left, there's the Langri Tangpa's Gompa, called Langri Gompa. You can go there. So he didn't live at Reting, he had his own place there. So he went there, Geshe Chekawa, but discovered that this great master had already passed away. Fortunately, he met a disciple of Geshe Langri Tangpa, the great master Sharawa. So you know, a lot of these Geshes are mentioned, their quotations in the Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. Pabong Rinpoche quoted a lot of them there. Fortunately, he met Geshe, who gave him the complete instruction on exchanging oneself with others. By practicing these instructions, Geshe Chekawa gained full realization of bodhicitta in his mind. He taught these instructions to many lepers who were able to cure themselves of leprosy. By practicing exchanging oneself with others and Tonglen. These instructions thus became known as the Dharma of lepers. Meditating intensively on Tonglen with clear and powerful visualization is actually the supreme treatment for leprosy. So Lama Zopa tells the story of I think one of his Chinese students who had AIDS and cured himself of AIDS through doing this practice. Well, he did the practice and his AIDS cleared up, so. Geshe Chekawa, thinking it would be a great loss to people if these instructions were kept secret, began to teach more publicly the practices of exchanging oneself with others and giving and taking. So, in Liberation of the Palm View, he wrote this text, the 7-point mind training, Geshe Chekawa, which is in the appendix of Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand, and some of these outlines here refer to that, the 22 pieces of advice and so forth. Yeah, we're not going to get to that, but Geshe-la will when he gets back, I'm sure. The practice of Tonglen, giving and taking, is indeed an inconceivably wonderful practice. So you know what it is, right? So we're in meditation, we take on the suffering of others and we give them all our happiness and merit. We can do that next week. In the past, when someone was sick or had a spell cast on him or was experiencing obstacles of some kind, a person would seek the help of a Kadampa Lama. The Kadampa Lama would do Tonglen practice, taking upon himself both the suffering of the one who was being harmed and the one who was causing the harm, and meditating on compassion, especially towards the harm giver. So as we said before, when we see someone inflicting harm on somebody else, we tend to feel sorry for the person who's experiencing the harm that's being given. But in a way, we should feel even more compassion for the person giving the harm, because the person experiencing the harm is actually finishing the negative karma to experience that, whereas the person who's inflicting the harm is actually creating the cause to experience all that harm and more. The Lama would take upon himself all these sufferings with great compassion, and with great love would give away all the virtues and benefit. The Kadampa Lamas considered this practice to be the best remedy against spells. I don't know, do people still cast spells? Do we? Not so much here, but okay. So there's still relevance. The best practice against spells, obstacles, sickness, and so forth. Well, even if we don't see so many spells, we see a lot of obstacles and sickness. The instructions on exchanging oneself with others consist of 5 main points. Equalizing, so terminology is a little different. Equalizing oneself with others, the disadvantages of cherishing oneself, the advantages of cherishing others, the actual thought of exchanging oneself with others, and the meditation on giving and taking, Tonglen. So these are these 5 here. So equalizing oneself with others, at what point should you begin to meditate on the first subject, equalizing yourself with others, or meditating on how self and others are equal? Prior to this meditation, you should meditate on the first 5 steps in the 7-point cause and effect instructions. So what we just talked about. The equanimity, which we did the first week, recognizing all beings as mother, remembering their kindness, wishing to repay the kindness, affectionate love, which sees them as beautiful. Thus you begin to meditate on equalizing yourself with others, having gone through these 5 steps, which I already explained. How should you equalize yourself with others? First of all, you need to understand what you mean by self when you think in terms of yourself. When we think myself and others, this myself has a sense of great importance, whereas others has a sense of much less importance. So when you think in terms of me or myself, there's a much greater sense of importance than when you think in terms of others. Whatever concerns you becomes extremely significant. Whether you feel good or bad, whether you're cold or hot, it's always more important than how others feel. Also, everything related to you, my body, my possessions, my friends, my family, my kids, everything which is part of your life, yourself, has a much greater sense of importance than the same thing related to others, their bodies, their families, and so forth. So just think about that for a moment. Does that ring true or not? You know, myself and my things are more important than others and their things. Thinking in this way, you can see how you do not regard self and others as equal. You esteem yourself much more than others. However, consider it from the point of view of numbers. You are just one, whereas others are countless. So there's a discrepancy in the way you regard self and others. Although there are so many more others than yourself, you regard yourself as more important than others. This is completely wrong. You should decide that your objective in this meditation is to correct this discrepancy and learn to equalize yourself and others. The way to do this is by thinking that you and all other beings are exactly the same in wanting to be happy and free from suffering. You need to think over and over again about the fact that there's not the slightest difference between yourself and others in terms of wanting to be happy and wanting to be free from suffering. In this regard, you and others are exactly the same. If you compare the instructions of the 7 points of cause and effect and exchanging oneself with others, the 5 points of recognizing all beings, mothers, remembering kindness, wishing to repay their kindness, storing intention, bodhicitta are the same. However, there's a difference when we come to the 2 points of affectionate love and great compassion. The strength of these feelings is different in the two practices. How is that? It's because when you meditate on the kindness of sentient beings according to the 7-point cause and effect instruction, you recollect how kind they were when they were your mother. Whereas when you meditate according to the instruction of exchanging oneself with others, you recollect their kindness not only when they were your mother, but also at other times when they were not your mother. So this meditation is more extensive. Therefore, when you train your mind in the instruction of exchanging oneself with others, the strength of your affectionate love and great compassion will be greater than training the mind in the 7-point technique of cause and effect. The aim of these instructions is to train your mind in actually exchanging yourself with others, and the way to push the mind in that direction is by contemplating both the faults of cherishing oneself and the advantages of cherishing others. Therefore, the next step in the meditation is contemplating the many faults or disadvantages of cherishing oneself. I think given we have the puja, I think we should probably stop here. Give us an hour and a bit. Yeah. So I think we'll continue here on the second point, contemplating the faults arising from self-cherishing next week. Try and get through this. And so if you can read this teaching here or there, at least up to the point we've reached before next week, because we've been over this the last 4 weeks, but some of you weren't here. In this? Yeah, page 29. It's online. If you just Google Ribur, R-I-B-U-R, and Bodhicitta with a CH, Bodhicitta. It's not. The link is there. It's on the Lama Yeshe. It's on lamayeshe.com website. But if you just Google Ribur and Bodhicitta, it will be one of the first links. Yeah. And this also, yeah, I believe so. Who's doing the dedication? Can if you like, whatever you like.
We're going to do, so there's a quick prayers here, just so we can set up for Guru Puja. Page 39 for the Thanksgiving mandala offering. Saji Perki Joje Me Dojam Rirabe Sangye Shudu Shokunam Dangsing La Chupa Sho Jetsu Name Kunte Rapten Chen Nanka Chen La Chokun Gen Padang Lop Sam Ten Chu Ten Sasum Gi Drume Won Nangyo Chi Idang Guru Ratan Lala Kami Yatayami. Page 43 for short long life prayer for His Holiness Dalai Lama. In that snow mountain encircled land, source of every benefit and joy, may Lord Tenzin Gyatso Chen Reizig remain in life till samsara's end. Page 49, the short long life prayer for Lama Zopa Rinpoche. You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjuna's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplish magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels, Savior, myself, and others, your disciples, please live long. Page 57 for prayers of dedication. Through this virtue may I swiftly, having gained place each and every sentient being without exception in that state. Precious supreme Bodhi mind, may it where unborn arise, and where born never decline, but increase forevermore. Page 75, Peninsula. Mixes with Chen Chen Reizig, Drine Kempe Wampo Jam Pelyang, Gam Chen Kepe Sungen Song Kappa, Go Sam Drape, Shabla Soate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick.
12:45 now. If we can just put everything away, and then we'll just start from scratch with the